Welcome to the Music Journal Podcast, where we talk about the hottest things happening in music right now, and also how you can apply it if you're an aspiring producer or musician yourself. I'm your host, Wes Yee. I'm a producer, artist, and educator, and I'm stoked to be chatting with you. Let's make history. All right, welcome to another episode of the Music Journal Podcast. Today we have a really good friend of mine. His name is Nick Rubeck. Nick is actually kind of funny story. He slept on my couch a bunch of times, which sounds like it would be a burden, but it's actually been awesome because we've gotten to connect and have some really cool conversations. Unlike most guests that I have on this show, Nick's actually not a musician or an artist or a producer or anything like that, but he loves music, if not more than some of the music producers I've met. He just loves music so much that you would think that he was an artist, and this may be the most important episode that you ever listen to for that reason, and you'll see why. Nick, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. So I kind of gave a little brief synopsis, but it was pretty vague. If you want to tell the listeners just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a single father. I work here in the city. I like to get around, hang out with my friends, do a little bit of skating, and during all of it, you can find me with my headphones in. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That was a really short version, man. Give the whole story, bro. What do you want? Like how I came to the city, or
I want like everything. So if you don't mind sharing, of course. I know it's kind of personal, but before Nick first slept on my couch, you were actually living in a halfway house, right?
I was. Yeah.
So how'd you end up there?
All right, here I go. So I had a little bit of a rough past. I got into a little bit of the drugs and did that for probably like 5 or 6 years. And that I ended up going on the run and being in some states further down south. And then I had my son born, and I decided to come back and turn myself in, try and make a better life. And so after I did that, I went to jail, got on parole, came here to Boston. My first job was there at the smoke shop, where I met you, of course. And then when the time came, I was looking for a place, and all of a sudden you were going through a few things. You had some roommate issues, and you needed a couple extra $100 a month and had a free room. So that came so like clutch. I remember you being there and you were like, wait, what? You need a room? And it worked out so perfectly. And then I actually moved right across the street, and ever since then we just stayed friends. We had that Airbnb, and it was cool. We had crazy people over from other countries, just like playing Pong. It was a good time.
It's pretty wild the way that me and Nick ended up kind of getting connected. For the listeners who kind of follow my music and know a little bit about me as well, and kind of read my emails and know my story a little bit, I have a song about when I got fired, evicted, and sued all in the same week. And that was around the time me and Nick started getting close because, that job I got fired from was that smoke shop that we were both working at. The room that we Airbnb'd, to put it in perspective, was the room of the roommate who sued me and my roommates. And Nick kind of just came in and took that spot. But what's really cool about Nick, and he's being really humble here, when I first met Nick, I never would have guessed that this dude was doing drugs. What drugs were you doing, just to kind of put in perspective? We're not talking about just like weed and
I was shooting cocaine and heroin, and I had experience with pretty much every drug that was out there.
Yeah, so, and that's a really personal thing to share, so I appreciate you doing that. I know it's
course.
not an easy thing to talk about, especially in the public eye.
Right. Well, I like for people to hear those kind of things. As you and I have talked about before, it's I almost prefer to talk about those things because that's real life, and that's what strikes people at their core. So if that's something someone else is dealing with, I'm always more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And anytime anybody tries to tell me that, I've heard people say that if once a criminal, always a criminal. Right. It's weird for me to even say that you're a fucking criminal, dude.
All the time. I forgot you were in jail. All the time.
Dude, it's crazy to me, man. I can't picture it.
Honestly, it's crazy
after that.
It's crazy to me sometimes. I'll wake up doing what I do now and look back, and it's I don't know, I go hang out with what I was doing before. I'd take a little 3-year-old girl out to ice cream, and that's what I would do. But before, I'd be hanging out with firearms and narcotics. And like, it's just so surreal to look back, because I know that at the end of it, that wasn't me. I was just caught up in some shit that I had to deal with, you know, which brings me to why I love music so much, because like a lot of people portray those emotions through their music, which is a great way to vent. And it's like, the better the music is, the more you can feel it. It's like a lot of passion, and that's one of my favorite things about it.
Definitely. I also noticed you listen to a lot of hip hop, and that's kind of a big part of the culture. I feel like, you know, we're in a time right now where we're becoming more aware of just all the problems that are happening in our judicial system and systemic racism and stuff like that. And a lot of that is portrayed, especially in the hip hop that you listen to and I listen to. And it's pretty crazy, man. They paint these people as things that they aren't. And I think you're a really good representation of that. So I can see why you relate to that style of music so much. I think that's really cool. And anytime anybody tells me that somebody can't turn their life around, you're my prime example of that just really not being the case at all.
I'm glad I can be that.
Would you find that even though you're not an artist, when you listen to songs, do you sometimes almost feel like damn, like I could have wrote that, like they're saying everything that I'm thinking?
You know, I do feel like that a lot. I always feel like I should be writing something down. Actually, when I was in jail, there were a few times that I would like lie in bed at night and write like a few verses in my head, which would make me want to get up and turn the light on and write them down. And then it was just little things like that. So I never really went off with it, but I absolutely like get the idea that I could make things like that.
Can you listen to music in jail? I've never been before, so I really...
It's wonderful. They give you this 99-cent clear radio, so you can see like the circuit board on the inside and everything for $35. It's quite ridiculous.
Is that like a commissary kind of thing? Like
yeah.
You have to go and
if you're lucky enough to get a job, you earn $1 a day in the kitchen.
That's it?
Yeah, so it takes over a month to earn that radio.
Fuck,
unless you
dude.
have, unless you're fortunate enough to have someone drop money off.
Jesus. Did you have one while you were in there?
My last time I was lucky enough to have my mother drop off like $50. So absolutely. I got that in a pair of sweatpants. It was dope.
Hey, sick.
I was comfy.
Would you say that having that really helped you kind of get through that time? Because I know dude, if I'm in my room by myself for even like a fucking day, dude, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like I'm like losing my mind, dude.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
Trust me, the first week is like, what the hell? I'm like gritting my teeth a little bit.
Yeah.
But once you do get it, so where I'm from, there's a lot of country stations, and it's like a maximum security type thing, so the big old concrete walls. And the service is terrible, but there's one station, 99.3, that plays like a bunch of hits and like catchy rock tunes and stuff. And I remember that I always wanted to listen to it so bad that I would like stand on the desk and put the radio in the corner of the window just so I could get the station, and I would like chill there for like 2 hours and just like make it comfy, like tape it up to the corner and just chill. That way I could listen to some better music. Not that I don't like country. Country's great, but I'm not always in the mood for, sappy driving down the dirt road with my dog.
Well, I feel like a lot of your appreciation comes from the fact that it was so inaccessible for a little bit, right? Like the fact that you had to go through all that just to listen to music, something that I can literally do whenever I want to. It's so easy. I just turn on Spotify or whatever.
Yeah,
I wanted it there.
Yeah, no, there were times I wanted it so bad I would just sit there and play it in my head and like sing them myself.
Damn.
Just because I remember the groove and I was like, I'm trying to jam right now. Like
you do a little poetry too, right? Am I misremembering that?
I've written a few things down. It's not a habit of mine, but on occasion I like to do it.
Yeah, dope. So that's kind of the inspiration that you're getting too from all these artists that you're listening to, and just kind of the experiences that you've had.
Yeah, I do take a lot of like, whenever I do anything like that, I take influence from some of my like more favorite artists, like the ones that hit home, like the songs I really feel, those goosebump ones. And but then I always like to try and bring it back to something that's personal that way. Because like if I was to make music, that's what I would want. I would want someone to hear my story or like my envision of what, like, because like sometimes I'll hear beats and it's like, I know a lot of the time it's just from a producer, but then other times like people make their own stuff and they make something that sounds how they're feeling at the time. And like that makes all the world of difference in a song, because you can tell if it's upbeat and happy or if it's like got that melody that's like, this is a little darker and more serious. Like,
yeah, and I think that's something that's really important for all the artists and producers listening at home right now to realize, is that at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create something that connects with an audience. I feel like a lot of the times people get kind of wrapped up in all the gear and the equipment and all the like cool shit you can do, like stuff that's like technically difficult and proficient, but may or may not actually be connecting with the audience that you're trying to reach. So that's a really cool thing that I think you just said, and I think it's invaluable.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of music is like when people are listening to it, they want, like, if they're in a good mood, they want something that's gonna embrace that. They want something that's gonna be vibey and uplifting. And if they're not in a good mood, they want something they can relate to. That's gonna, tell them that someone else is feeling that too.
Yeah. And everybody every day experiences a different feeling. So you're going to need something different for each day.
So when you gave me that preview question, you were like, just to get some thoughts in your brain, what do you look for in music or something like that? Like as a consumer, what do you look for? I think that really varies from day to day. Like, because I think I said it to you before. I can listen to a song on my phone and I'll listen to the first 10 seconds of it and skip it over and over and over again. And then one day I'll play it out and I'll be like, whoa, like this is such a good song. And there's also other songs that I will listen to and it's mediocre at best. But then I listen to it when I'm in a different mindset and I'm like, oh, then the song starts to resonate with me because I can feel more of where the artist was coming from. So it's really like a day-to-day basis on whether like what I'm in the mood for. You know?
Yeah, and depending on your mindset, that's a totally different song.
I feel like that works with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, well, not everybody, but 95% of people that listen to music.
I think 100% of people do.
For sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is their own person, but there's things that still make us human, and the fact that we experience different emotions every single day.
Right. We're always evolving and changing. So.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's looking for something that they can relate to or someone they can relate to. And that's the cool thing about music is that you can you can do that with somebody beyond just having a conversation because you're adding all these other elements now.
So personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Dude, I'd love to hear a crazy jail story.
A crazy jail story.
Yeah.
Let's think. All right. Well, it wasn't me, but one time we were all hanging out and some guy up on the top tier was causing a little bit of a problem, and all of a sudden they were like, all right, lock in your cell. You get these things called 24s or 48s where you're stuck in your cell and you have to eat in your cell and you can't come out of it for 48 hours. And the guy was like,
everybody has to do it. Like it's
no, just the one person. Otherwise, you go to the hole, which is where you go in for 10 to 20 to 30 days, whatever, yada yada.
I've seen Orange is the New Black. Okay, I got it.
Right? Yeah. See, we're like a county jail, so it's not state prison or anything. It's not like crazy. You just you go down to a different unit and you sit in a tiny little by yourself cell with no one around, and it sucks. But
have you been? Have you had to do that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did 30 days in there. It was
holy shit.
Yeah, it sucked.
Fucking A.
But so the guy was like, no, I'm not gonna cuff up. Stands at his door, like, call the squad, whatever, blah blah blah. So you hear that, and everyone locked their doors. Everyone has to go in their cell. And it's like a minute later, you see the riot squad come down with shields and helmets. And the guy's got like a wet T-shirt over his face. That way he doesn't inhale the pepper spray. And he's got like, I don't know, like all this stuff wrapped around his head. And like, he was a big guy. And like they came up to the door like 5 or 6 deep and tried to come in, and he literally punches the helmet right off one of the guards and like pulls 2 of them in and leaps over them into the hallway and he just started beating all of them up.
Holy
it was
shit,
so crazy. Yeah, like wild.
What happened? Like how did they?
They eventually buried him in with the shields and like hit him with a baton and pepper sprayed him with the whole tank of pepper spray.
Jesus
and then dragged him out in
dude.
Cuffs down the hallway.
Oh my Lord.
It's interesting. And then there's other crazy times that are way less crazy, like where we made like 2 gallons of fruit punch alcohol and like hid it under the mattress.
No fucking way.
Yeah, like
dude.
hid it in our laundry bag underneath the bed, and you just have to you have to vent it every day, and it smells really bad. And you have to just like hope that for 3 to 4 weeks you don't get a cell flip where they come in and rip your whole cell apart and make you put it back together.
Jesus, dude. Does a lot of like underground stuff like that happen? Like
all the time.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude, I had a guy come in one time, and it was someone I had known from the streets, and he apparently had like 20 morphines in his butt. And he was, like, man, you want any? I was like, and at that time I was like, no, like I'm trying to do better. But like any other time it would have been a score. But
dude,
like
if I put fucking anything up my butt, dude, I wouldn't share that shit with anybody.
Bro,
dude.
They call them.
I did it.
They call them care packages.
Holy shit.
Well, just for example, you can take one Suboxone on the street for $10, and in jail it's worth $100.
Wow.
So
and those dollars are hard to
people
get
go
to.
in and then they have like their loved ones transfer money into that person's commissary account, and then that person will hand it over. It's pretty neat. Very very expensive though. So if you're the guy with the care package, like go you.
That dude's a baller.
You're gonna get some benefits.
Yeah. Neat's definitely an interesting word to describe that. To kind of shift gears and kind of bring us back to the topic that
for sure.
I want to talk about, dude. I mean, that was definitely something I wanted to talk about. Dude.
It's interesting.
Fucking insane stories, and they all kind of just go into who you are, and it actually relates to what I want to talk about too, which is that we're kind of bringing it back to music, and you're a music lover, and your whole jail experience kind of goes back to that and kind of contributes to that. You obviously get a lot of music showed to you as a consumer, right?
Absolutely.
What in your opinion makes you want to like really go and follow somebody who either pops up on like your Facebook news feed or either someone shows it to you? Because you probably ignore most of it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I scroll past things that I like. You know what I mean? Like I have to revisit them 2 or 3 times before I dedicate myself to like downloading it.
But you're not going to take the time out of your day to go back and revisit, right?
No, I think that's where consistency comes into play. Like once I hear 1, 2, maybe 3 things that are fire, then it's like, oh, now I'm looking forward to what's coming next.
Yeah.
Or I want to go in and see where they started. Like
so
where have they grown into this? Because that makes me like, I don't know, I like to see the progression of people. It's nice because sometimes that old school stuff is like it's good.
Yeah.
Like I'll find new artists and then I'll go listen to their old stuff and I'm like, wow, like this is fire.
Well, everybody wants to see the come up, right?
Yeah,
so it must
for real.
be cool to like first maybe someone pops up on your news feed, like your friend shared it or whatever, and you like it and you're like, damn, like that was pretty sick, and then you just kind of forget about it, but then you see it again like a week later or somebody else shares something else from that artist,
right?
And you're like, wow, that was like really fucking good. And then the third time is when you're like, damn, I'm a fan. I'm following this guy now.
Yeah, shout out to Dead Poet Society. It was just like that. Like I
really?
literally worked with the dudes, right? And ignored their shit forever. They were recording videos, there and ignored it for so long, and then heard this song and that song, and I was like, this is cool, and then like didn't do anything for like 6 months, and then all of a sudden they were doing their tour thing. I started to look through their music. And then I followed the page, and then now I have their songs on my phone. But it was like I was literally right next to them, ignoring, music that I really enjoy now.
Yeah,
like
it was a gradual process.
Right.
Here's actually something I'm wondering. Do you think that if you didn't know who they were and you weren't working with them, do you think you would have noticed them faster or slower? Because a lot of artists. Me included, to be honest, like, I've showed my music to friends of mine who are like, yeah, like it's sick, but don't follow or support, you know what I mean? So is that more of an artist thing, do you think, or do you think it's more of the consumer thing?
So I think, unfortunately, I would have continued to overlook them if I didn't know who they were.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because it's like I saw what they were doing, and that made me want to revisit because I knew who they were. You know what I mean? There was a little bit more of a connection than just the 2 songs that I had heard previously.
Yeah.
So it all depends because, like, by now that could have changed.
Right.
I could have found their new song real good, and then went back just like we just talked about. And
who's an example of somebody that you didn't know in person where that happened, where you discovered one thing and you were like, this is pretty sick, but then you didn't follow or become a fan, but then eventually you did?
Let's see.
We're gonna trace this back. We're gonna make like a little blueprint.
Sit here for a minute. Let's see.
You mentioned Hobson at one point to me, so that's one that comes to mind. Maybe there's a better example. I know you're a big Logic fan too.
Yep. Well, Hobson, I kind of followed from the beginning.
Okay.
That was just like, I don't know. I listened to Raw and like Raw just got me.
Yeah,
that
which
was
can
it.
totally happen.
So
too.
then I was like, when's the next Ill Mind coming out?
Yeah.
I want to know.
Well, that's the goal, right? Is that you
Right.
just hook them off the first thing
Right.
that they see.
Well, I mean, like that's the thing is like that album was fire from front to back. Pretty much every song was lyrically like proper.
I'm a Hobson fan, man, and I like that album a lot. I would go as far as to say though, if I heard like No Word Skit or like one of his newer songs, if I heard that now for the first time and that was my first impression of Hobson,
I would not have liked it.
I would not have liked it, dude. And it wouldn't have been until I heard a few more things.
Yep. I'm not a fan of the newest album, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate him as an artist.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like I'll pick 2 or 3 songs out of the new album that I like, and I'll just listen to the old shit.
Well, that's the other crazy thing about it too, is that with every artist, even these big artists that we are big fans of and we follow,
Right.
Not every song of theirs is going to necessarily be a hit, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because it's about the consistency and it's about continuously putting out your best content for that time. And then maybe when they're in a different state of mind and they hear it, that's when they really connect with it and become a fan.
So this is reminding me of Tech Nine, because for the longest time he was an underground rapper, didn't do the mainstream thing, didn't collab with mainstream people, and then all of a sudden he came out with the whatever that album is with Worldwide Choppers, 6s and 7s, and he was getting a lot of backlash from like a majority of his fans that had been around for 10 years, and they were like, wow, dude, you literally said in songs you'd never do this, blah, 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 blah. But you know, it wasn't less than a year later that everyone realized that the music wasn't really changing, that he was just moving with the times and collabing with different artists and getting a little bit more of a poppy feel to his music than the underground. But his lyrics are still the same. He's still a fire artist, still makes great music. But like,
he's still Tech Nine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it just like, it adapted over time, and it's like whether the consumer's going to adapt with it and appreciate the new stuff or not.
Well, I think a lot of people typically are just kind of afraid of change. Like if they are used to one thing, we're habitual creatures. And if you're so used to just doing something, how do you stop doing that? It's just it's the exact same as like your jail thing. If you're so used to like using drugs and
right. Well, I felt some, like with the Tech Nine, I felt some type of way when it changed, but like over time I realized that I don't know, it's still the same artist that I enjoyed before.
Well, for Tech Nine, that was literally essential for his growth. Like you can't just keep doing the exact same thing.
Exactly. He was going to come to a screeching halt if he didn't do that.
Yeah. That's a great example, actually. That's kind of like the opposite of what we're talking about. Instead of like somebody who you kind of like think is cool, but then you become a fan. Right. This is someone you were a fan of, and then it was like, okay, now it's like a downward parabola, if you will.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm feeling this anymore. And then it comes back up because you kind of get used to that and you realize that he's just developing and he's doing something new, but it's still the same artist at the end of the day doing it.
Moving forward, just like the rest of us.
Yeah. as I think at the end of the day, authenticity is the key to all of this. Would you agree with that? Absolutely.
Because you could, I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of most of like on my Apple Music, I barely ever scroll through like the top hits. Like that top 10 that everyone's listening to.
Yeah.
Unless it's like from an artist that I already listen to, I don't scroll through that because it's just not something I want to hear most of the time. That's just me being judgmental.
Well, I think it's so funny how those are like those are the top 10 artists that people are listening to, but at the same time, there's so many people who just won't listen to them because they're.
I'm like, who are these people that are listening?
That's fine.
Like, who are they talking to? Must go by most viewed or whatever, but
it has to do with like sales, I think, like album sales or whatever. There's a whole like algorithm to it that
I'm sure there is.
iTunes keeps very secret, but it's there, and that's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's dope because it means if you're an independent artist, you have a real fighting shot at getting heard.
Because
even
when
if you're not in that top 10,
I get bored with my music a lot, and I'll scroll through like the For You playlists, and like that's where I find like the new artists. Is like the ones that are related to the ones I listen to, but that I've never heard before. It's always hard for me to reach out and listen to somebody new.
Yeah.
I have to like search for it or stumble upon something great.
So that's really the key, is to just kind of be in the peripheral vision of your ideal consumer, as opposed to like going and like pushing your
But that's got to be so hard as an artist to be like, what, like, because you want to sell, but you want to stay true to yourself while trying to. You want people to listen to your stuff. You want people to buy your album. You know what I mean?
You might be surprised. I mean, it seems hard, in theory, because I see a lot of people who make music just get on Facebook and they tag like 300 people in their fucking thing, and I'm like, I don't know you, dude. Like, why are you tagging me this? I'm not watching. Like, of course I'm not gonna watch this. And then even if I do watch it, just because that happened, I'm probably not gonna share it unless it's like incredible. You know what I mean? Because the approach was all wrong, dude. There's ways you can. That's the key, I think, is being the peripheral vision, so that way they stumble upon it. So getting on things like Spotify Discover or Apple Music's For You or whatever. That's the way to do it, right? Because that's how you've been.
It is good to find music on your own, because like before, it's personal. So like I don't know if it's being shown to the masses, you know what I mean? Like, let's tag it for 1,000 people to see. You're gonna be like, what is this? I don't know. It's not. I feel better when I stumble across something.
It's more personal. It's like you found
when
new treasure or something.
When new music comes on, I hear it coming from the cars and I ignore it for a week or two because I'm like, oh, that's the new hit.
Yeah.
And then of course, because it's a hit, I find myself 2 weeks later tapping my foot, singing the lyrics. Like,
but it doesn't mean like you're a fan still. Like, it doesn't mean you're a follower.
But that's what I'm saying is like not even like the greatest of hit songs captivates everybody.
Yeah, 100%. 100% true.
Yeah.
Dude, this time kind of flew by. It's almost our time, man.
Seriously?
Yeah. But I do have one more question. I ask it
sure.
on every show. I know your answer is going to be incredible for it. If you had unlimited money, no strings attached, what would you do and why?
What would I do and why? For one, I'd want a house. So I'd have it's like somewhere nice to live. But ultimately, I'd probably just help it feed my goal in life. Like, I want to travel and I want to help people. I don't know how I would do it, but like if I had unlimited money, it'd be easy to donate to causes. And like, I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of people's like, I'd like to donate to charity, blah, 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 blah. But like, I don't know. I want to see the world. I want to visit beautiful places, and I want to make connections with people that you don't make every day. And with money, I'd, be able to travel the world and do that, and not have to worry about anything else.
Well, you said I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. You said you weren't sure how you were going to make that difference, but I want you to kind of like really picture yourself with all that money.
Right.
Like pretend like right now you just have it. It's not a hypothetical question. What would you do as soon as we close this interview?
So I've always wanted to work like with the drug thing. I've always thought about being like a counselor or something along those lines to help people handle their emotions in a proper way without resorting to bad habits, because there's plenty. It's not just drugs. It's drinking alcohol, degrading people, blah, 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 whatever your forte is. But I'd like to, because I know a lot of places like that don't receive enough funding. People don't get paid a lot. People aren't passionate about their job.
True, yeah.
And I'd like people to be passionate. So if I have to say something specific, I'd probably donate to like some of those rehab places in like my hometown, or places that don't really get much funding. And then like, I don't know, something along those lines.
Boom. There it is. Amazing.
Word. Cool.
Dude, Nick, you are the man. Thank you so much for being on The Music Journal.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Music Journal. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, I just put out a personal EP on Spotify. You can go to bit.ly/Wes Yee Spotify. And if you want to know more about music production, I teach an online course about it too. Just shoot an email to wes@homestudiohits.com and I'll send you an application. Just for filling out the application, I'll send you a free sample pack of sounds I use to make the instrumental you're listening to, and more. All these links will be available in the show notes, so you can check them out there. And while you're there, if you feel inclined to rate this show 5 stars, that would really help me out. Other than that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks again. Peace.